How's it going? This is Hoiman, and today we're taking a look at the Dissidia Final Fantasy Trading Arts Set 1. So for the set, this is the main box. So you have nice illustrations of the actual logo, and then it's pretty much the same on all sides. And then on the back you do have some legal stuff. Same on this side as well. And then the top, it shows which characters are in this set. And then you just have the bottom. So to open the box, because this is a trading arts set, originally you're supposed to open it by the dotted line here. But for collection purposes, I decided to open the whole lid instead. So you just open the box, and then you get 5 of these tiny boxes. And then basically each figure is stored inside these separate boxes. So it advertises what figures are in the set. And then legal stuff on the one side. And in the front you have nice illustrations of all the figures. And then on the side you have a nice logo. Bottom you just have legal stuff. And then on the top you just have logos. And then to open the box, just lift open the top flap. And then basically the figures is stored inside separately in these bags. And then you also get instructions on how to assemble each figure. So to assemble Warrior of Light, you just grab his legs and then you grab his torso. And then you just slide it in like so. And then you just attach each arm, and then each peg is shaped especially to fit each limb, so they're static once you attach them. And then it's the same for the other arm. And then on the bag you have a hole for the cape, just push it in like so. And then you have the head, which snugly fits on the torso. And then to finish it, you just line up the pegs with the holes on his feet. And there we go. Pretty much the same thing for Cloud. So attach his legs to his torso. And then just attach his arm to his torso as well. And then again, just line up the holes with his, and then again, just line up the pegs with his feet. Yep, the same for Squall. And then for Zidane, this one's actually the European release, so he's already assembled in the box, but basically to assemble him, you just attach his legs to his torso, and then you attach the tail as well, and then finish it off with the stand. Same for Tidus, so he's again the European version. So to assemble him, you just attach his legs to his torso, attach his hand to his arm, and then just finish it off with the stand. So taking a look at the sculpt, these are obviously based on the illustrations from the game, and for the most part I feel that they did a really good job of portraying the actual illustration. Overall it's very accurate, and then although these are quite small figures, the detail on them is really impressive. There's just so much detail and paintwork and shading going on in these figures. And overall they're really well sculpted as well. So looking at the character's face, I feel that they have captured the lightness of him really well. But I think my only gripe is that I feel that the skin colour is a bit too pale. And it lacks a bit of detail, but the eyes are very nicely painted on. And then the helmet as well is really nicely sculpted. It's a nice metallic blue. And then you have the metallic gold and silver lines to bring out the armor and detail. And then it moves on to the top here with the flowing hair, which is nicely sculpted. It's got some shading in there as well. And then you got the 2 iconic horns, which are nicely painted in gold. And then moving down his armor, again, the nice use of metallic colors continues. And then all the lines are very nice and clean for the most part. There are some sloppy areas here and there, but they aren't super noticeable. And then the cape itself is really nicely sculpted. Has the nice shading of the darker tones to really bring out the creases and folds. And then there's a lot of movement to it as well, just like it does in the illustration. And then down to a shield, again, very nicely detailed. It's a bit plain on the inside, but that's just because of how it looks originally. And then moving to the sword, again, nicely sculpted. I will say the blade is a matte, kind of pinkish finish, which looks a bit odd, so I think it would be nice if it was a nice metallic pink, because then it would kind of really stand out a bit more. But the handle itself looks fine. It does look a little bit cheap with the kind of lighter colors, but overall it does work for the most part. And then down to his legs, you can see all the creases and folds in the clothing, and then all the armor parts are nicely sculpted and painted. And then a lot of shading going on, even down to his legs, just lots of detail going on. And then you have his base, which is just a simple rectangle. And then looking at Cloud, again, really nicely sculpted and detailed. But I will say, because he's mainly in the one color and it's quite dark, it is a bit hard to see all the levels of shading in his clothing. But for the most part, it still looks really nice. So again, the face, I feel that they have captured the likeness of him really well. But again, I feel that the skin color is a bit pale, so it lacks a bit of detail. But the hair is nicely sculpted. Nice use of texturing in each spike as well. And the sword is really nicely sculpted. You can see all the kind of rusty effects on the blade itself. And then there's like a darker shade throughout the metallic silver. So it has a really nice effect to the overall sword. And then the handle is all sculpted and etched as well. And down to his actual outfit. It's very simple, but it is very nicely sculpted for the most part. And then the shoulder pad is a nice metallic finish. Same for the kind of arm part on his forearm. So it does look really nice. And then all the kind of screws and etching on his fingers are sculpted and nicely detailed as well. And then his actual trousers is sculpted, which has a lot of motion in them. Looks very nice and effective. And then down to his actual shoes, the paintwork is a little bit sloppy on them, but for the most part they work. For Squall, really nicely sculpted again. They have captured the lightness of him really well, but again, I feel that the skin color is a bit too pale. But the hair is nicely sculpted, and then there's kind of small shading in between the folds of the hair as well. And then the gun blade is a nice metallic silver, and then you have the logo here as well. Looks nice, and then some rusted effects on the tip. And then you have the chain, which is a softer material, so you don't have to worry about that breaking. It would be nice if it was an actual chain, but because it's such a small figure, I can see why they chose not to go with an actual chain. And then down to his actual outfit, you have the nice shading in his shirt, and then the necklace is sculpted on as well. And then all the kind of zips and stuff are painted with silver paint, so it looks really nice and effective. And then the kind of scarf around his coat is nicely sculpted with each level shading as well. And that's the same for these parts on his hips. And then of course you have the cloth on the side of his leg. And then the belts here are individually sculpted. And then the kind of sculpt in his pants are again have a lot of movement and nice level of detailing in there as well. And in the shoes you just have the nice silver parts painted on. Looking at Zidane, really nicely sculpted and detailed. Again, I do feel that the skin is a bit too pale, but the face does capture the lightness of the character, and then the hair is nicely sculpted as well. And then moving down to the actual outfit, it's a nice use of this kind of blue, and then you have the nice darker shades as well to bring out the folds. And then you have the scarf as well with the small metallic blue marbles here. Nice attention to detail. And then the weapons themselves have a lot of detail going on. So it's nice use of mixture of metallic paints. And then you have the nice detailing in the symbols on the blade. And then handles as well. Lots of detail going on. And then the belts, really nicely sculpted and detailed. But it is a bit sloppy in some areas where the blue meets the browns. And then going all the way to the back, you have the holster for his weapon. Again, nicely detailed. And the tail has a lot of texturing sculpting in as well. And then the actual pants, you can see all the folds and creases. Looks pretty nice for the most part. And then the shoes are nicely sculpted, but the black parts are a bit sloppy. And then finally we have Tidus, which is nicely sculpted, but again the skin is just a bit too pale. And then the face I feel is pretty decent. Looks kind of like the character for the most part. And then the hair is nicely sculpted, but there is a bit of a scratch here, which is a bit unfortunate. And then on his actual outfit is nicely detailed. The clothing has a nice shading in there. And then nice rip effects as well. And then for the arm itself, you have the red here, which is a bit sloppy painted on. And then you have the actual armor for his glove. And then down to his sword, which is a nice use of translucent plastic to really bring out the effect. And it has a nice sculpt to it as well. And then to his legs, you have all the clothing and the folds. And then the symbol here, it's very clean painted on. And then down to his shoes, which don't really have too much paint work going on, but they are nice and clean for the most part. But I think my gripe with them is that they're not fully flat on the stand. It just kind of it just looks a bit awkward on how they're positioned. So my final thoughts are, overall this is quite a decent set. I have heard that they're not the best sculpts of these characters, but I think for the most part, despite these being quite old figures now, I do actually feel that they're quite sculpted quite well. And then because they're small as well, the level of detailing in these figures are pretty impressive for the most part. But I do agree that some of the sculpt, especially in the faces, do look a bit off. Some characters do look a bit off from how they originally supposed to look, but for the most part, I think they do work, and I feel that the detailing on the rest of the body sort of makes up for it as well. There's just so much detail and shading and paintwork going on in these figures. And the fact that they were able to capture their illustrations really well is pretty impressive. But I will say, when I purchased this set, I did have a few issues, such as with Titus. The gauntlet on his shoulder here was somehow just really messed up and sculpted weirdly, so I had to kind of replace him with that. And I think the skin tone color is a bit pale on all these figures as well, and I think over time they've kind of lost their color even more, so it's something to keep in mind. But from what I've seen, you should be able to get these figures for a decent price. They haven't really increased too much over the years. So if you can find a decent price for this set and you're a fan of these characters or the games, then I can still recommend these figures. That's my review. Thank you for watching and enjoy some pictures.